Okay, some of the topics that we're going to talk today, you can see it in the screen. Both me and Erin will be talking together. So some of the topics that we're covering is researching universities and colleges, funding and scholarships, application process, do's and don'ts, and snapshots of each of our universities. Take it over, Erin.
All right. So when I'm talking with students, I tend to, come up with four different kind of main topics for students. And I encourage all students to research where they want to go. Don't just have your heart, you may have your heart set on one particular university, which is perfectly fine. But I would also research multiple universities, and even you might need to research some colleges and stuff like that. So some of the things that we do that you need to understand a little bit about the United States and going to school is it can get kind of pricey. Tuition, universities can cost a wide range of, there could be several wide ranges of tuition cost for you. This is a census on average, the US schools, and we're talking about universities and colleges, and we'll kind of go more into that, is about 13,000 to 50,000. Now, this is an average. You may find some schools that could be cheaper, and you'll most definitely probably find some schools that are more than 50,000 a year. Another is a difference between a university versus a college in the US. So I understand, like in your home country, a college may mean something different than what it does in the United States. And so sometimes a college in your particular country could mean a high school of sorts. For us, it means typically it could be about the same thing, but a university normally puts out 4-year degrees or higher, like a master's or even a graduate doctoral study program, where colleges in the US typically are about 2-year programs, or they do tech training type schools, or specified certain type of programs, but they don't normally go up to a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or even a doctoral degree. So those are kind of the difference. So do understand that there are 600 plus different schools in the US. So there's a lot of schools out there for you to be looking at. So like I said, even though your heart may be set on one particular school, do understand there's probably another school out there that is just as good. So do be kind of doing your cross comparison on when you're looking at schools.
And for location, I know most of you are researching and figuring out what universities where, just like Erin mentioned, 600 plus universities, public, private, college, tech. I mean, things can be confusing. And then you have to think about location. So one of the things that I did a long time ago when I was a student, also coming as an international student on an F1 visa, is looking for the city. I looked at the university. I wanted a smaller city. I mean, you maybe want a big city. So look at, metropolitan, suburb, rural, state, and city. And also know, there's very significant differences in each of these cities. The reason I picked a rural small city, it was a college university city. Everything was interconnected through the university. The bus system was free. Smaller city, so cheaper apartments. So there's a lot of things to consider. And again, to add what Erin said is, every university is different, how the universities, colleges functions are different, and your needs and wants are different. And one of the things that we both hear most is, students say, my friend is here, my friend is going there, my neighbor is at this university. We always advise students to be unique and seek what your needs and wants are, because a student A could be very different to you. And with that, location is a pretty important point to look into. And also to talk about expenses. Expenses was a deal breaker for me. I remember sitting down and talking with my parents saying, how much can my sponsor can afford? You as the student do have an idea what your funding situation is. And I did too. And cost funding scholarships was huge part of the decision making, even before the location and programs came in, because I wanted to make sure that I do have the funding for the 4 years or 4.5 years. So tuition fees, housing, books, and some universities, they do charge insurance, health insurance, and some universities it's a mandatory fee, and that can range from $1,200 to $3,000 or even more. So these are things that are very important for you to look into, and not just attending university, that cost that is listed here, but what about the application process cost? If you're looking at 15 universities to apply, each university has an application fee, sending the test scores. So these are things that you need to be mindful, you need to put into account. And my best advice, and I know Erin will agree, is when you do research universities, I mean, the topic says alone, right? Research universities, put in a spreadsheet, put down all the costs so you can make an informed decision, even applying, because like we mentioned, every step can be costly. You have to pay for every application. So put in these lists and then you will be able to make a pretty good informed decision. Erin, do you want to add anything?
No, and that's right. And I go back, kind of go back to like the location to kind of emphasize a little more on that. As far as in the United States, and probably similar to like your home country, but in the United States, the cost of living can be different and dramatically different per state. So in the kind of cases, like for us, we're kind of in the center southern half of the United States. There's a lot of land, which creates, less busyness or whatnot. So the cost of living is cheaper where you travel to like East Coast or West Coast area, you're going to see a lot of you'll see a difference within the cost factor, maybe not necessarily the tuition factor. So when you're looking at, and this goes into expenses, when you're looking at your university that you're considering, do look at everything, because the tuition may be very comparable to a bunch of other schools. But the cost of living is the part that could get you. And it, I have a lot of people, with being in the state of Oklahoma, we have a lot of students that will travel to their friends in California or travel to their friends in New York, because their friends can't travel to us because they're spending so much on their tuition. And it's amazing the differences of the cost factor and the savings that you could do by getting the same type of education. The quality of education could be exactly the same, if not even better, and you can save some money. So.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. Okay, funding and scholarships. We have a couple of tips to share with you because our session is about funding and scholarships. So the first tip is look for scholarships or discounted tuition. I will talk a little bit about what that means, and Erin will add to. At our university, we do have multiple scholarship and funding opportunities for all students. So merit scholarships, just like states here, is awarded for your academic within bachelor's or a graduate or doctoral programs. And we also offer athletic scholarships for those who are qualified or is selected to play a sport to the university, we do offer those scholarships too. Government scholarships, USA government offers many scholarships like the Fulbright, and I'm sure if in your country you should have a Fulbright office, or sometimes it's partnered with the Education USA office. Country-based scholarships, your home country may have specific degrees which will support. I know some countries are very clear in what programs they're providing scholarships to. Discounted tuition. So let me explain what discounted tuition is. If you've done some research, you may have seen that international students pay out of state tuition and fees, and out-of-state tuition can be a little bit higher than the tuition that the domestic students are paying. Some universities have a flat rate for everybody. Some universities have in-state for all students, but some universities have that out-of-state tuition for international students. So discounted tuition means they may be discounting it, the tuition out for you, so you pay the resident rate, which can be pretty big savings. Or if you're a graduate student, you could get a tuition waiver, depending on what kind of programs you're looking into. And there's various other scholarships through the university that you can look into. And these are things that you do need to do your research and read and go to their websites and plan early as well, because most of these scholarships or funding opportunities, they do have deadlines, and the deadlines can range from institution to institution. And another tip that I do want to add is, if you're looking for funding and scholarships, you do need to be mindful on the deadlines and all these scholarship types. There's no restrictions. Some scholarships may say there are, but when there's no restrictions, sky's the limit. You can go ahead and apply for these scholarships and funding.
Thank you. Yeah, that's another thing on with scholarships too is you'll find out in the U.S. that internationals aren't eligible for we'll say loans or grants just by themselves. You have to have quite a bit of sponsorship, U.S. sponsorship, to get those grants and loans. So scholarships is your main goal. If you want to get some sort of reduction off your tuition in some form. So kind of a tip number two, this goes back to what Ludmila was talking about, is you do your research, create your spreadsheets. So you need to determine which school is best for you. Like what we talked about, we recommend, obviously don't stick with one particular school, but you may go to that particular school, but pick out several schools and look at kind of the positives and negatives about that particular school. So kind of, obviously you don't want to go to a school with a bunch of negatives, but when I'm talking about negatives, I'm talking about, okay, the tuition is a little bit higher than this particular school, or the living cost is higher, or I may have to live farther away from the campus, stuff like that, some things. And then you'll pick out positives like the program, or the location, or just you have friends at these particular schools. So I would do some positive and negatives with that. Like I said, you're going to be looking at the cost in the living area, because that does create a big factor. And then I would also look for the difference between living on campus towards off campus, and adjusting your abilities to live on campus or off campus, and what that costs for you. And then, yeah, just kind of maximize for transfer students. If students are wanting to complete their degree, have started their degree and wanting to complete their degree, I would look at a school that could possibly maximize your transfer credits. So, and sometimes that's good or bad. So in that, but it's up to you, your determination.
Okay, we're going to move on to tip number 3. Compare programs towards other schools. A very good tip. Ranking, I know most of you have heard rankings of universities, and you can determine if you want to go into the top tier school, how are the funding is, what are the programs, what are the opportunities. And one of my all-time favorites is internships. And I used to work for a large university, and I was in charge of the career programs for international students. And I worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And what I learned through that company profiles and any employer is they want students with internships. I cannot stress enough, when you are comparing programs, internships, you need to look at internship opportunities, whether it's through the career services or career department, or whether it's through the academic program. You're required to have at least, not required, some universities do provide opportunities, at least have 2 internships by the time you graduate. And institution to institution, these internships can vary, be very different. Job placement after graduation ties in very nicely with internships, because once you do internships, employers are aware that you have real world experience related to your field and job placement. And a lot of universities, they will list what the job placement rate is, how many percentage of graduating classes securing jobs. And you can even go further and look at international student data if that university provides, and see how many international students secures job at my university, the University of Houston, Victoria. We have a employment rate of 92% for international students. And then the other 7%, sometimes, students don't tell us if they secure jobs or not, or they depart right away after they complete the program. Quality of teaching, you will soon realize when you are doing your research that every universities, how they do programs, how they do classes, teaching, the platforms they use are very different. And you can understand that by simply going into each university's departmental page and just investing some time in the websites of the universities that you do want to attend, so you understand all these items, so you can compare and make a very good decision whether these are my top 5 universities, these are my top 10 universities, when you're making your decision. Time spent getting that degree. I don't know if you remember, at the earlier slide, I said, 4 to 4.5 years. I've done intensive research on international students, and I can comfortably say our international students do graduate, undergraduate students do graduate within 4 and 4.5 years. Right now at our university, for master's students, there seems to be completing it super fast. 2 years to 1.5 years is our students completing their graduate programs pretty fast. And every university, this can be different. Some programs do require internships, so might push into past that 4 years. So these are things that, you do need to consider.
That's right. Tip number 4. This mostly is how can I help? Now, this may not always apply, and you may not be able to do this at some particular places, but this is how I can help once I get to the university, possibly to help out kind of your parents or whoever sponsor you to kind of reduce pretty much like your everyday type needs. And so part-time jobs on campus is one way in which not only are you getting a scholarship, but you also have this part-time job that helps pretty much every day. That I always tell students that it will not pay for everything. So you can't probably use that for like your tuition, your housing, and your everyday needs, but it will help reduce kind of the extra burden that your parents may be having to put on you, or providing, funds for you, which could be your everyday needs. I need a Starbucks every day, my part-time job could help with that, So many departments have and will hire students. So that's something possibly you may not be able to find this out as far as until you get to the university on a lot of this stuff. But most universities will have job opportunities for you. Do understand, in the United States, you cannot work off campus. You have to work on campus while you're studying, unless it is affiliated with like an internship of some sorts. For the most part, if you're going to be working, it needs to be on campus. And so this is kind of important. I would tell you, once you get to the university, if you need extra assistance, this could be something for you to be looking at.
Okay, moving on to our next. So I know you all can be overwhelmed looking at universities, researching all what is out there, but we're going to give you more resources. These are going to be very helpful. If you can take a screenshot, this will be amazing. Or if you want us to send the presentation, we can do that also. These are resources where you can go into and then read the blogs and read and understand where you can find many things. This is one of the things that is very different to when I started. We didn't have this many resources. I remember the internship opportunities, wasn't even advertised as much, but look at these amazing resources. These are here, these are there for you to take advantage of. So visit these websites and then get all of your information, because more research you do, it's not just going to help you to find your university, but it's going to also help you when you are facing that US visa appointment, because you're very well trained, you know what you're looking for. So do your research on finding universities and then funding and scholarships.
Right, and kind of the second portion of this is kind of talks a little bit. These are sites that talk a little bit studying in the United States. Obviously, some important ones like Homeland Security that will definitely give you some insight on visa opportunities, or what you need to get a visa, what the insights on getting a visa. And then obviously you get great resources possibly within your home country with like Education USA, which are normally through the State Department at the embassies. And then you can look at some of these other ones to get kind of an idea of expectations of studying in the US.
Okay, next slide. You can go ahead.
Okay. This is probably outside of understanding, can I afford to go to a school? This is your next big obstacle and your next big decision as far as the application process. There is a lot that goes into the application process, whether you're looking at the undergraduate level or the graduate level or doing a doctoral program. There's a lot that goes into it. And so different schools have different criterias or different admission requirements. Generally speaking, this is just kind of general understanding of the application process. Most universities will do online. You may find some paper applications still hanging around there with some universities. But I would probably say that 98% of universities and colleges are going online. So be expected to probably log in, create like a profile, or get your password and login information and do an application that way. There are some universities that will have their own application, or they will supplement that application out to a company in which you can use that to maybe do several different applications to different schools, but the same application with one school. You want me to go through all these, or you just want to go back and forth on it?
I can add, and a couple of things to add to Erin is also the testing. I think when you're considering applying, I know Erin can attest to this too. one of the things that we've been hearing from students over the years is, do I have to take GRE? Do I have to take GMAT? Do you need SATs? So universities are now very accommodating. I know we have not, University of Houston, Victoria, we have not asked for SATs, GRE for quite some time now. It's nothing to do with the pandemic. We've never required some of those testing. Funding scholarships are not based on those testing for many universities. And again, universities can be very different. And also the deadline dates. Deadline dates can be rolling, but some universities, the deadline dates are hard, strict deadlines. So you do need to make sure that, you work on these deadlines. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the athletic profile. So if you do have any students with athletics or are wanting athletic scholarships or funding, I cannot stress enough, I am in the committees and reviews for athletic candidates. If you come and tell us, I want an athletic scholarship with no profile, we cannot do anything. You need to have a profile, and that profile needs to be ready at least 6 to 8 months before the time that you're applying. The coaches selection criteria is different, selection timelines are different. So if you're waiting for that time, it can be too late. But having that profile ready, if you're a good player, I mean, that's the way to go. And how do I submit my documents? Again, every university is different. Just, some universities do require scanning of the documents and emailing it to the university. Some universities want that official document in a sealed envelope sent to them. But again, things have changed drastically over the past year during the pandemic. So many universities are very accommodating and have changed their process throughout these difficult times, unprecedented pandemic times. So I can just research and ask, even simply asking, this is the way that I can send the documents. And then Erin, take on the scholarships.
Yeah, so a lot of universities will have, and you'll find this out, that some universities have an application for scholarship. Some universities will not have an application for scholarships. The department will determine the type of scholarship that you may get. Obviously, the school will present that scholarship like on their website, on kind of maybe give you a grid or a matrix for you to kind of look at, like a GPA or an English proficiency or an SAT, and that determines the type of scholarship you get. Anyways, there could be a way that you may have to apply and you may not. Do remember that some universities may have deadlines towards scholarships. And I would probably say a lot of universities will probably have deadlines towards scholarships. And then there could be an allocated amount of money for that particular scholarship. And so if there's an application for that, you need to apply as quickly as possible and don't miss the deadline, because once you miss the deadline, then you miss the opportunity possibly for some tuition and for some scholarship reduction. So do make sure that you are looking at to see if there is a kind of a deadline for scholarships. So we're gonna kind of go over a little bit of do's and don'ts. We kind of have more do's than don'ts on this because we want you to mostly do things right, not don't do things right. Okay, so some of the do's, like I said, pick a school that fits your price range. Please do not go into a situation where you're picking a school in hopes that the scholarship meets your amount of money you can afford. Okay, I've seen it over and over that a student has calculated them going to they go to this school, they've calculated based off the scholarship. Something happens, GPA may not work out quite what they wanted to once they get to the university, and then they lose that scholarship. Then now they're in trouble because they can't afford to go to that school anymore. So do make sure you get a school that fits your price range, okay? You can look at scholarships and you can determine, and that could be a major factor into whether or not you go to that school is getting a scholarship, but try to make sure the price towards going to that school is good, you know, with or without scholarship.
And I do want to add to Erin, what Erin said. I can't, stress enough. One of the things that we get mostly is students asking for the top Ivy League universities. I want a full scholarship, Ivy League universities. And keep in mind, the scholarships do have quotas, and if it is an Ivy League university, the possibility of being a recipient of that scholarship is going to be very slim. And again, look into a university that you can afford. I have been in the industry for 20 years that I've seen every possible case scenario that, a student has gone through, including athletes. An athlete being injured and not being able to play, the scholarship is no longer available. So then the athletes either have to transfer to a different university, or I've seen students go back home. And a couple of don'ts is, don't spend all of your money. I know both me and Erin have seen students come in, see all these amazing things in the United States and spend all their money. And then you come to us and go, I didn't know how to manage my money and I spent all my money. Not a good scenario at all. And be cautious when you are going off campus, and we've seen stories of this also. They don't understand that, 2-bedroom apartment, $1,500, it can be quite expensive, but if you don't have a roommate, you have to pay the $1,500 or that entire month rent and the deposits, and you have to get your electricity and your phone, your internet, all on your own. And I'm actually working with a student who moved off campus and doesn't have a car, but is 3 miles away from the university, and it's snow. So those are things that, you do want to do research and be very moving off campus. And some universities, you may have heard people say, oh, off campus is cheap. Off campus is cheap. Go off campus, you can cook your food. On campus is expensive. I really want you to think about that, because on campus living could actually be cheaper than off campus when you put all the expenses together. So at our university, University of Eastern Victoria, we have on-campus housing for $400 a month. 2 people can share $400 a month. Off campus could be very expensive, and you have to start everything on your own. So look at that expense. You see that big dollar amount saying room and board, but do the calculations, divide it with the months, and see how expensive and affordable that cost is. Don't pick a school that is way over your budget. And this goes not just not being able to pay, but this even goes when you apply for the US visa. And I've faced this interview so many times of myself, and I still remember, because, as a 17-year-old, you're really scared facing these interviews. And if you show funding that your family's income and what your assets you have as your family, but then you're applying for a university that your family cannot afford, they're going to question the university choice that you have selected. So be very mindful when you're picking the universities, and don't count on the scholarships to be there for the 4 years, and always have a backup plan. And I always say have a backup plan to your backup plan, but don't apply for schools that is over your budget. It can be very cumbersome later on. Do you have anything to add, Erin?
Yeah, and one thing that some students tend to forget about is they're so excited about getting to the US. Like they see the tuition, they've talked to their parents, like, okay, overall tuition is this much for a semester or a year. And then they move on to then they come to the university. And then when they start to break down their tuition and they start to send back to their parents, okay, this is what it's going to be. Sometimes that could be a lot more than what they originally had thought. So I always tell students, once you figured out your school, And once that's kind of, you know, per year or per semester, you guys can afford kind of that cost to go to there. I would sit down with your sponsor and come up with how you guys are going to budget per semester, by semester to semester, or even by month to month if your parents or your sponsor is sending you money. So it would be good for that you do create before you go and come to us, that you have talked with your sponsor and kind of figured out, you know, how's money going to be transferred in. All right, well, let's do a little snapshot of our schools here for you. We've kind of talked to you about finance and scholarships, and so now we have this opportunity to kind of bring it home and kind of talk to you a little about how all this kind of ties into our particular schools. So real quick here, we are located in Oklahoma. I have a map there because a lot of people are like, where is Oklahoma? You know, and so we are right above Texas, which you're going to hear about Texas here in just a minute. So we are right above Texas, and like I said, in the southern central portion of the United States. So we are located in Oklahoma City, which is the largest city in the state of Oklahoma. So we are a metropolitan private university. We've been around for a while. We've been around for over 100 years. So we are one of the first original schools within the downtown area. And we are actually one of the only schools with an actual campus with dormitories and multiple buildings in the downtown area. So we have 3,000 students, and so we have 70 plus undergraduate, 20 plus grads. Currently right now, this kind of fluctuates. We have 43 countries represented at our university. So I'm pretty sure where you come from, we definitely have some students from there. And so we have 200 plus international students. And so the campus size, like I said, we're one of the only campus-wide schools in the downtown area in Oklahoma City. And so one of the great things is that we are always listed. So we are ranked amongst, you know, U.S. World News Reports, and also ranked very high within private, when they rank different private universities and stuff. We very similar. We have a 92% job placement rate for our graduates, for our seniors. And so this speaks volume to our ability to connect with the local businesses. And then on top of that, being able to train you. So the local businesses, and not just Oklahoma, but in the surrounding areas, and even the surrounding states, we have students that do get jobs. So to give you an idea, 92% is ours. The national average for US schools to place their seniors is 42%. So we take great pride in our abilities of teaching students, and then also being able to place our students in internships and jobs afterwards. All right, a little bit of highlights. Did one skip, or is that it? Is it just two?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, all right. So some highlights. Let me hear it. So let's. You can submit all your documents, and you can apply online. Like I was saying, most universities do online application. We do have application waiver capabilities. You need to ask us because we do promote those, and we do have one for this particular fair too. So if you proclaim that you were at this fair, just let us know and we can waive your app fee. We have undergraduate programs, obviously undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral programs. We do have scholarships available for international students at the undergraduate level. And these scholarships can range between $9,000 to $13,000. And it's mostly just based off GPA, and you don't have to apply for it. We look at your GPA. We have kind of a grid that we look at that determines which amount of scholarship you'll get. But I would say that you do need to apply as soon as possible. One of the great things about us is that we do have a smaller class size, which is a good benefit for you guys because our professors are really able to kind of teach to you and not just teach to a big class, but they can actually help you and they can help with your instructions, kind of give you a one-on-one instructions on something that you may be needing with your projects. And then on top of that, because of the small class size, they're well connected within the business world. So they can help tremendously with your internship opportunities. We have a number of international programs, student organizations. We have 20 plus, and a lot of those are country-based. There's an opportunity for you to showcase or for you to show your culture, your traditions on our campus, and we'll be able to talk a little bit about this, but U.S. students really do like to get connected to international students. They like to hear about your stories. They like to understand about your culture. And so that's no surprise on our campus that we have a very open and friendly campus for international students. And then, like I said, one of the great benefits about coming to our school is that we are so well connected with the local businesses and national business. And then big headquarters are within Oklahoma. And then also we can even, headquarters outside of Oklahoma, we can place our students at. We'll give some information. I know this video is live, so it will be broadcast. And so you can look up some of this. Feel free to come by my booth, Oklahoma City University's booth, and we can connect a little bit more and I can send you some information about what's going on.
Okay. So next is a little snapshot of University of Houston, Victoria. I did talk a little bit of the examples when I was presenting with Erin. And again, you can visit our booths. We will have videos and a lot of other fun things in each booths. A little bit about my university, University of Houston, Victoria. We're located in Victoria, Texas. So Erin is Oklahoma, the state above. And a little bit history of University of Houston, Victoria. So University of Houston, Victoria belongs to the University of Houston system. So there's 4 universities in that system. The flagship campus is called the University of Houston. So we're different. We're University of Houston, Victoria. We're the baby in the system. We're a few years old, and guess what? International programs and recruiting international students takes to 5 years. When I first started, I was hired as the director to kick off the international programs and bring international students to our university. We went from few students to today we have over 160 plus. We're a small university also, similar to Oklahoma University, as Erin spoke about. Erin has 3,000. We have a little bit over 4,500 students. And I heard him say personal attention. That is one of the uniqueness of selecting a small university. Personal attention you get like no other. We work with students very closely. Our college expenses are affordable. You can see right here in the slide, it says it won't break the bank. UHV is listed as the 6th most affordable four-year university in Texas. We're in Victoria. You can see we have a secondary teaching site in Katy for those who are juniors and seniors and graduate students. And we are about 2 hours away from all the metropolitan cities in Texas. For example, Houston is 2 hours, Austin is 2 hours, San Antonio is 2 hours, and Corpus Christi is 2 hours. And a couple of these are, I think I'm missing a slide too. So a quick information. Our application fee is 25, but we are waiving right now for students who are taking part in this session. And we don't require SATs, IELTS, TOEFL, or GRE or GMAT. Our scholarships are purely based out of your transcript back home, because we know coming from your countries, myself, I did advanced level, GCE advanced level, brutal exam, and I didn't have any time to study for SATs. So we grade you, we give scholarships on the exam that you study the hardest, and we know you study for your local country examinations. Same goes for graduate students. Your university transcript from undergraduate program back in your home country or the university you completed, that's where we determine your grades and how we apply for scholarships, how your scholarships are graded. We're a small university. Because we're a small university, we are able to offer graduate assistantships and scholarships for international students. Our international students have the opportunity to gain from 3,000 all the way to 12,000 for already affordable cost. For example, your tuition can drop down to tremendously to about $7,500 a year as an undergraduate student. So very affordable. And on top of it, we also give a $1,200 a year stipend if you plan to live on campus, making on campus even more affordable. So these are a few things that our university offers. And one of the other items is internships. I did mention about internships. We start prepping our students with resumes and career services and career coaching as early as your first semester in your freshman year. For graduate students, your first semester in your graduate program. And your academic advisors will be working with you on your internships. Internships is a key component at UHV. I mean, if I see you around the hall and I know you're a second year student, one of the first questions that comes out of my mouth is, have you been to the Korea? Are you working on your internship? Because I know the importance of an internship opportunity. And we have multiple organizations for international students. Like I said, you know, we didn't have anything 5 years ago. Now we have a full-blown office with 160 international students, multiple organizations. Our international student organization was named as the best student org of the university. Our international students have received multiple awards for taking part in student affairs activities. On-campus housing, I always tell students, our on-campus houses have, each housing complex has a pool. It's Texas, super hot. No pool means brutal. So on-campus housing is pretty affordable, pretty amazing. With that, you can see our contact information, pretty easy, international@uhv.edu. We're on social media, pretty active on social media, and our social media is taken care of by students like yourself. So if you send a message or something, a student is going to respond to your message. With that, we're going to open up for questions, and I see we already have 6 questions, and we have roughly about 8 minutes. The last slide actually does have our contact information as a refresher for all of you. So if you want to take a snapshot, take a picture of our contact information, and maybe Erin and I can take the questions that's already posted. I'm going to take the first one. Is there full scholarship programs being offered? At University of Houston, Victoria, we don't offer any full scholarships, but there may be other universities that does. I'm not sure if, Erin, do you do full scholarships?
No, we don't necessarily do full scholarships outside of possibly like an athletic scholarship or a talent scholarship within like our music or theater program. But we do have scholarships that will help.
The second question is, please send the slides. We will work on sending you the presentation to you, to all of who's at the event today. The third question, do we have to take SATs, TOEFL, IELTS, GRE, or GMAT? I'm currently taking IBDP. courses. I'm going to talk about UHV, and Aaron can pitch in for his university. No, you don't for UHV. IBDB courses will get you some of the waivings, and also have potential to waive some of the classes. So at UHV, no.
And that's similar to us too. Do understand that we may be totally different from other universities. So do look at the requirements of what a university is asking for. If we do require like several students to take an English proficiency test to enter, we don't require an SAT. And then if you're talking about more of a graduate studies, we don't necessarily require GMAT. There is like a few, like our psychology type programs that may require GRE. And then as we were saying, the IBDP, yes, that could waive your English proficiency requirement on top of possibly giving you some transfer credits. So you're not starting off as a freshman.
Okay, the next one is, like if one plans to commence undergrad program in 2022, then when shall one start one's application? Great question, great head start. I would say you being here at this session is a great start. That tells us that you're researching. I would say, start getting all the testing done, because, if you don't know which university you're applying, some universities do require testing. Get the testing done, and I would say start your application as early as June. Some universities may not have the application open for 2022. So you may want to watch the deadlines and then have everything ready, but the deadline comes in, go ahead and apply. Anything to add, Aaron?
Yeah, and I would, you could apply probably that early. It just depends on the certain university. Most likely you can submit some academics maybe a semester to a year in advance, and the university could make a prejudgment that you could be acceptable. Just understand that there are other things involved with the application, like your finances, that need to be within that year. So you could see some universities that could require updated documents, but I would encourage you to apply as soon as you can.
The next question, are there CV requirements for universities in the United States? And if yes, then what kind of extra and co-curricular activities in one CV makes the CV interesting for the board members? It all depends actually from the committee and those who are reviewing the CV resume. You can try your best to prepare a resume that is US standards. Like I said, I've worked for career services for many years, and I've seen international CVs being quite different to American resumes and CVs. There's few things that you do remove, like pictures, date of births, and other items, but other than that, universities do look into your academic profile, your volunteer experience, co-curricular experience outside of school, what you have done, if you've presented. For example, if you're looking at artificial intelligence or computer science, have you done items or any events or certificates, diplomas related to that? So more you submit, more you list of things that you have done is better for you, regardless of the format of you're presenting it. Some universities don't penalize students, international students, for the format, because you're coming into the United States to learn how to work on your resume, your CV. But they do remove points or deduct points if you have errors like grammatical and spelling errors. Anything else to add, Aaron?
No, and I would just say that some program, a lot of times when universities are asking for like CVs or resumes, you're getting more towards your graduate studies, or certain types of programs, like a business degree or something of that nature. So like we were talking about, be careful with your grammatical errors. And then I always kind of get, when I see a resume and you got a crazy email address, like I like to go out and dance at night at gmail.com type stuff, you know, I would highly recommend coming up with maybe just a better email. Don't be too crazy with your emails, because you never know that could come into play on stuff. So
last question in the Q&A. Is it possible if I apply for sports scholarship and talent scholarship at the same time? I can answer behalf of UHV. We don't have talent scholarships. We offer sports athletic scholarships. But depending on what kind of the dollar amount the scholarship offers, sometimes you may not be eligible to apply for other aid or other scholarships. But universities are different. You may be able to apply for multiple universities. Aaron?
yeah, and this is a kind of a good question, because some universities may not have what we call stackable scholarships, and that the term may be used differently in other places, but stackable means I can gather as many scholarships as possible from the department, from the international office, and from a merit scholarship, and stack that in. We at UCO, Oklahoma City University, we do have athletic and talent, and our talent is based mostly off musical or theater talents, where then your athletics is obviously sports talents. You could probably combine those together, but it really just kind of depends on the school and on the university on what they're able to offer for you for that.
So that's all the questions, right? I didn't miss any questions. I think that's, did I miss a question? Oh, does your university follow concept of campus placement? Do you want to take that question?
I'm trying to figure out what the, okay.
I struggle with that too. I'm not understanding what campus placement, what this is in reference to. Can you unmute your mic and maybe explain, or?
Yeah, I will, maybe I'm just taking a guessing part of this. So when we're talking about placement, and not necessarily campus placement, but when we're talking about like degree placing students, you know, in the United States, your first 2 years, you're going to get a general overview of programs, where it could be anywhere between sciences, liberal arts, mathematics, and some general studies. And then the next 2 years, typically 2 to 3 years, is when you really get into your major degree, or the fields related to your degree. So as far as like placement, do know that you can, you know, you may want to be an engineer, and you start at the university as an engineer, but then you change your mind, figure out that, hey, I'm not an engineer, and you want to move on. Your first 2 years are probably the best opportunities for you to explore on what you want to do.
So I think that's all the time we have. We actually passed 3 minutes than the allocated time. But again, just like Aaron mentioned previously, our booths are here. Stop by our booth, talk to us. We have videos and a lot of other things in our booths. But thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have an amazing fair, virtual fair, and then good luck with your future endeavors.
Yep. Yeah. If you have any more questions, please come to our booth, and we'll be glad to talk to you about it.